guess it's about time for us to go live, don't you think? I know there's people, we're sitting there waiting for us to go live. Sorry, folks, I think it's a bit of a disaster. Wrong phone. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, we didn't do the intro.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world famous Rich Wilson Show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world famous Rich Wilson Show. I am Rich Wilson, and you're not, which that's cool. Sorry about the delay on getting on the air. Had a bit of a disaster. Me and Dave were getting everything set up. By the way, Dave, thank you very much for all your hard work on that. And the broadcasting software that we use decided it was going to run a damn update on us right before we went on air. And, of course, unfortunately, when it does its update, it changes all your settings. You got to go back. You got to change everything. So, unfortunately, it took us a little bit of time to get on. Now, we weren't that late, which is good. You know that Wednesdays sometimes are hit and miss for us because I have rehab. And let me tell you, my doctor killed me today. And it wasn't his fault. We were checking my progression because everything else I'd been doing, I'm now doing with relative ease. And so he decided, okay, well, now will be the time to, check and see if, we could step it up a notch. And, hey, and it sounds like my DoorDasher is here. So we had to see if I could do squats on a squat press today. And damn, my knee popped so loud that everybody in the rehab clinic turned around and they just all stopped and looked, and we were like, what the hell was that? No, that was my knee. And we made the determination that we were not doing squats yet. I have not made it to the level of doing squats. So, I mean, I'll get there eventually. I'm in the gym every day now. And just trying to make this better because one of these days I hope not only to be able to run and do kayaking and stuff like that again. I also would like to be able to get back in the ring, wrestle, and, do all kinds of stuff like that. But you kind of got to have both legs in order to do that. So definitely, it was definitely interesting. So let's get to the crux of today's show, shall we? I will warn you that thanks to my doctor hurting the hell out of me today, I did have to take some pain alleviation. So this quite possibly could be the last show I ever do on YouTube. This show might get me kicked off. I don't know. We'll find out. So anyway, let's get into it. So, okay, of course you guys all know about the Florida bill that everybody is raging about. Okay? They're going around saying that this is the Don't Say Gay bill, which that's a load of shit. There is nothing in that bill that says that. There is nothing in that bill that discriminates against anyone. Okay? It doesn't. And they keep saying it does. That's you know how my campaign about Stop Fake Hate. It's fake hate. People were told to hate this bill. They were told this discriminates against people who are transgender or gay or bisexual and all this, that it completely goes against the LGBTQ plus community, which it does not. Okay, it doesn't. And then a reporter yesterday tried to corner and do a gotcha moment with Ron DeSantis and failed miserably. And I'm going to play it for you right here.
Asking on 7 parental rights and education, what critics call the Don't Say Gay bill, is on the Senate floor.
Does it say that in the bill?
Know that you support.
Does it say that in the bill?
I'm
asking you to tell me what's in the bill because you are pushing false narratives. It doesn't matter what critics say.
Hold on. It says it bans classroom instruction on sexual identity and gender orientation.
For who?
For
grades pre-K through 3. So 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. And the idea that you wouldn't be honest about that and tell people what it actually says, it's why people don't trust people like you, because you peddle false narratives. And so we disabuse you of those narratives. And we're going to make sure that parents are able to send their kid to kindergarten without having some of this stuff injected into their school curriculum.
And what he said is absolutely accurate. Okay? There is no reason on this earth that we should be having a conversation with kindergartners, first graders, second graders, and third graders about human sexuality and sexual preferences. We should not be having that conversation with them. It's inappropriate to have those conversations. And somebody sat there and made the comment about, well, in this situation, aren't we looking out for the safety of the children, and because of this, we're going to be putting them into harm. Into what harm? What harm comes to a kindergartner through third grader about not talking to them about whether they feel like they could be this or that, or what sexual orientation they may have? In third grade, I wasn't thinking about, in fact, probably still in third grade, I was still thinking girls had cooties. And can somebody give me the statistic of children from grades K to third grade? Can somebody give me the statistics where these children are hanging themselves or killing themselves? Because they're not. Okay? What happens when these kids are forced to discuss this issue and make a decision based on what they're told that they should believe? Then that's where the detriment to the children come into play. You look in these cases where children were singled out and ridiculed. It wasn't because a kindergartner through third grader came out and said, "I think that I am this," or "I think that I am that." It's because the discussion came up, and believe it or not, in a lot of cases right now, when children say that they don't have this and a teacher keeps pushing the issue about it, that's where ridiculing is happening in K through 3. In K through 3, that's not a discussion to be having. And in fact, I don't want you to have a discussion with my child who is not of age to even understand in totality what sexuality is. I don't want you having that conversation with my child. I will have the conversation with my child. My child knows that he can come to me and talk to me. All of my children know they can come and talk to me. Because they know with dad, there's nothing off limits. And I will not judge you for anything that you want to discuss with me. But as a parent, that is my responsibility. As a parent, it's always our responsibility. Me personally, now you could be against this, and that's perfectly fine. But me personally, I don't believe sex education should be taught in schools, period. I really don't. The fact that you look to the school to be the responsible one to teach your children about human sexuality, here's the thing. Do you want your beliefs and your thoughts about sexuality taught by a strange by somebody who may not agree, may not have the same beliefs as you? Now you say that this could be dangerous, and what if a child wants to come out as being gay? Okay, child, they do have people, and that's the problem with this bill. They say, well, it prohibits the schools from being able to do anything about it, and that's a load of shit. That is absolutely wrong. That's a lie. What this bill did was this bill clarified rules that were already in place, because before those rules were filled with loopholes and misunderstandings, and nobody knew who was truly responsible. And then the schools decided, well, we're going to take the lead in this. And you had some individuals that were doing things that were inappropriate. I mean, if my kid comes home at the age, well, he's now 9, okay, but before that, if he came home at the age of 7 and said, Dad, they were talking to us about these things sexually, I would be upset, because my child, a child at that age, it's not appropriate to have that kind of a conversation. Now, these are the same people who think, and one of the problems is some of these people who argue that we should be doing this at kindergarten through 3rd grade are the same ones that say, well, our children aren't mature enough to understand that a coyote, that there's serious repercussions of learning from a coyote about dropping an anvil on a roadrunner or strapping rockets to them and trying to go off a cliff. That's violence, and we can't do that because that's inappropriate. But it's appropriate to teach your children about what gender preference they would like to engage in sexual activities with. But it's not okay for them to watch a cartoon and it's not reality. That's not appropriate for them because they don't understand it, but yet but we believe that they're cool to understand human sexuality and reproduction. And a lot of this is starting to come from because this was another argument that was made. Well, there's a lot of laws being passed that's anti-LGBTQ community across the country and black. You know what? Did you know that in some states it's actually illegal for a parent to prevent a doctor from giving your child hormone blockers or testosterone blockers because the child went to a guidance counselor and said, I think that I'm a male child went to a doctor or a counselor and said, I feel like I'm a girl. I want to be a girl. And if a parent says, well, you're not giving my child medication, they can't do that. They're not allowed. Okay. So some states turned around and said, no, you can't do this without number one, you can't do this without the parent's authorization. Some states have even said, no, you can't do this to a child. Here's the thing. I'm perfectly fine with you being whatever you want to be in this world, with the exception of, a murderer, rapist, things like that. That's not something that's cool. Okay. But if you honestly feel within yourself that you are the wrong sex, that you are not what you are on the outside, you are something different on the inside. And when you are at an age where you can make the decisions for yourself and you are responsible for the decisions you make and you want to do this, I support you 100%. You do it. But a child, who is not responsible for their own actions. And you say, well, they are responsible for their own actions. Really? Let your child do something stupid and damage a bunch of shit and tell me who's got to pay the bill. You tell me who's got to take care of things when that messes up. Your child decides to ditch school. Right? Who gets the fine? The parent does. When your child does this or that, who has to pay for it? The parent does. So when that child is legally responsible for their own actions, then let them make the decision. If they feel that in their pubescent era that they still are that way, that they're not the person they are on the outside, there's something different on the inside, support that, fine. But I don't believe in altering them. Let them make that decision when they're legally responsible for their decisions. Because at that point, as a parent, you raise a child until the child takes off into the world. Once that child takes off into the world, hey, Dean, and can make their own decisions, then go for it. You want, if Randy wants to become Rachel or whatever, then Randy can do that. If Elizabeth wants to become Larry, then so be it, or whichever one. It doesn't matter. Because once you're an adult, you can make those decisions. But as a child, the last place in the world that needs to be pushing what those decisions are a school. Okay, and here's another reason why. And this should be the big factor on why this should not be okay in school. Our school systems are ranked some of the lowest in the world. We have a hard enough time educating our kids and giving them a basic education to be able to succeed in the world. We don't need to be focusing on this. We need to focus in school on how to give our children the basic tools and necessity to be able to be a productive human being out there in the world. To not be a dick and to be able to provide for themselves. As parents, we're supposed to reinforce that and teach them values. We're supposed to teach them the difference between right and wrong, and we hope that we did it right as parents. So when we send our little hellions off into the world, they don't become a dictator and destroy half the earth. That's the hope. As a parent, that's all we can ever do. But schools are not the place for this. It's really not. And to sit here and say that bill is a don't say gay bill is the biggest line of shit ever. And the worst part about it is these laws in Florida already existed. They just weren't clear. And this is why I say it's fake hate. These rules already existed. This bill clarified rules that were already on the books and allowed it for more directive. Now they said, and so where was the hatred then? There was no hatred then because people weren't told the line of shit to hate it. You don't understand. It's almost like they have a factory built on how to tell you what you are and aren't supposed to hate. I can tell you this. One of my best friends in high school was gay. Or is gay, sorry. That would be a bad, say was. No, he's still alive. One of my best friends in high school. Wonderful human being. An amazing human being. Everybody knew it. Nobody cared. He's just one of us. And that's the thing. If you don't force feed this stuff down people's throats, then people have no reason to hate. People have no reason to be biased. It's like I told you before. Morgan Freeman told Chris Wallace, he goes, well, how do we stop racism? Stop talking about it. Was Morgan Freeman's response. Why? Because if you remove it from the lexicon of constant bombardment, then people won't hate because they won't know it. They're being directed. They're being directed. And that's the sad reality is that we live in a world where they manufacture hate for you. And then they tell you that you should feel guilty if you don't feel the way they're telling you. I had somebody today pull the white privilege card on me in a conversation. And you know what the problem is with those arguments? It's like Zion Bryn told me today, it's a circular argument that has no foundation. It's done it's done so that it's formulated in a way that makes it to where you can't argue with them because they're in a position of weakness. It's a form of abuse, and it's gaslighting because it's manipulative behavior. Okay? And that's what it is. It's like right now, have you ever thought that anybody would just be sick and tired of hearing the word racism? But they've used it so much, and they use it as a weapon, that it gets old. And you're just like, shut up. I'm not friends with anybody who's racist. And if I find out they are racist, if they're a racist individual, they're not my friend anymore. And you tell me simply because I am this way that I'm already this. Well, fuck you, is my response. Because that's telling me that I have no choice, that I am already set down a path of hatred, and you don't even know me. And this bill here is not anti-LGBTQ. It's not. It's not anti-anything. What it does is it says that these are the rules. And folks, when they say, well, a kid can't go to their guidance counselor and talk to their guidance counselor or their coach about what they're feeling inside, that's a load of shit. Yes, they can. What it does state in there, though, is if the parent who wants a record of any services their children has used in the school is required to give it to them. However, there's a caveat in that bill that everybody keeps forgetting to talk about in this. Because that's where they say, well, that's it, because now the parents who are anti-LGBTQ will now admonish their child and make their child hate themselves for this and that and this. And okay, so there's a caveat in the bill that they don't talk about. Okay, and one of the clarification points. It says in there that the school has the right to deny that information of the request of the parent if the school feels that the child may be in danger by that information coming out. And then what happens is the parent has a right to appeal the school's decision, but then it has to go to a court arbitrator. Then the arbitrator will determine behind closed doors between talking to the school, then talking to the parent, and neither two will discuss together the particular sensitive information. That will be kept secret until a judge makes that or an arbitrator makes that decision. And if the arbitrator makes a decision that, yes, we don't feel that the parents will be okay with this, then guess what? The information doesn't get released. It stays redacted. And they don't talk about that. Why? Because that pokes the hole in the argument that it's a don't. And first of all, it's like Ron said, nowhere in there says it doesn't say don't say gay bill. Nowhere in there. In fact, some school districts in the state of Florida have already taken up a stance of, if the child comes to us to talk to us about this, then what we will do is find a way through education and counseling to be able to bring the parents in on this conversation safely and carefully so that everybody is aware and everybody can be supportive all the way around. God bless you for that. Okay? And that's a way of doing it appropriately. But it doesn't need to happen in kindergarten through third grade. Why do we need to have sexual preference orientation education to children in kindergarten through third grade? Why? We can't let them watch. People won't let these children sometimes watch Ninja Turtles because they said it's too violent and they can't handle it. But we're going to have these conversations with these same children who can't handle fake turtles running around acting like ninjas, who have nothing but a good message for telling you that you should only fight when you absolutely have to, when there is no more options, but always try to find another way out. The Ninja Turtles have a great message. It's like G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe had great messaging. They always told kids, don't do drugs, don't do this, don't break the law, right? G.I. Joe had great messaging. A lot of these cartoons, except Looney Tunes, had great messaging. Okay? They always had a message. He-Man had a message. Transformers. I know I'm dating the shit out of myself at this point now. Okay? Scooby-Doo had messages. They all had these messages of positivity about how to go through, but a lot of these get taken off the air because, oh, it's just too violent. He-Man gets taken off the air because it presents an unrealistic stereotype of what children should be. And the same thing with She-Ra and Barbie and all this. It's because you're looking for reasons to hate it, and then you're told how to hate it, so then you hate it. But you miss the messaging and what's supposed to be. But it's perfectly okay that we're going to talk to our children about this shit, but we can't let them watch fake turtles and a talking rat. Why? None of this shit makes sense. And then, like I said, they leave out the important parts of there is a way for your child to be able to discuss with the school, and the school is not required to tell the parents. There is a way for these things to happen in the school where it's not where it's not this or it's not that, but they don't tell you that. They only tell you that the first line that says, you know, this can't be taught here, and they apply it to the entire thing. It's like they search through, find one sentence that fits the narrative, and they blast the entire thing with it. I don't even know who came up with the terminology. It's the Don't Say Gay bill. But I have some theories, and if it's any of the about 10 names that popped in my head, it doesn't surprise me. Understand something. I have no problem with everybody in this world being treated equally and being given the opportunity to be the people they want to be. If you're not happy with who you are on the inside, if you're on the outside because you're something different on the inside, as long as you're not harming someone, I'm perfectly good with that. And I defended this country for your ability to do that, and I will support you wholeheartedly. Even if it's something we disagree with, I will support you 100%. But to tell us that we think children aren't responsible, mature enough to handle a bunch of talking turtles and a rat, but we do think they're responsible enough and mature enough to have a conversation about human sexuality and all of these other associations to go with it. You're nuts. You're a Looney Tune. You are crazy. If we try to do a cartoon about that kind of crap now, back then, our show gets thrown off the air. But oh wait, they have those shows now. Just go to PBS. It's there. I mean, I like I said, our children are innocents, and allow them to be innocents. If they have questions, let the parents discuss it. Now, if parents are bigot assholes that are anti-whatever, yeah, unfortunately, it's a shit situation. And as a teacher, make your children understand that if it's something that they want to come talk to you about, they can. Okay? But in Florida, like I said, you can confide in them, and if you honestly feel like you are in danger, if you do, and they have to tell your parents, they don't have to tell you, because in every single section of those bills, it states that the safety of the child comes first in that. And if the school feels that the safety of the child is in jeopardy, they don't have to release that information. The parent has to get a court order to release it. So stop with this bullshit narrative. Stop with the fake hate. Stop getting everybody riled up over nothing. It's bullshit. It's not the you can't say gay bill. It has nothing to do with that. It literally is a bill that clarifies and sets up rules that were already in effect, that had all kinds of loopholes and all kinds of crap in it. And it took a whole bunch of different laws and regulations and clarified them in one. That's all it did. So just stop. All right. Next thing we're going to talk about, of course, because we talked about racism and all of this, we're on one of those topics tonight, folks. Uncomfortability may be a thing. Did y'all hear about Joy Reid and the bullshit she pulled? Joy Reid turned around and said that, you know, the only reason why people care about what's going on in Ukraine is because of racism. Yeah. I'll play it for you.
If this was happening anywhere else.
Or not. Give me a second. Give me a second here. I forgot. I need to do something here. By the way, for some reason, there's an issue with the audio on these things that I'm playing. Let me know. Because sometimes there's an issue where stuff comes out kind of weird. Or it comes off as like this weird reverb. And just let me and Dave know so we can try to do what we can do to fix it. But here we go.
If this was happening anywhere else, would we see the same outpouring of support and compassion? Well, we don't need to ask ourselves if the international response would be the same if Russia unleashed their horror on a country that wasn't white and largely Christian.
So what you're saying is if there was a war going on in a country that wasn't mostly white Christians, nobody'd give a shit. I mean, fuck, I thought people gave a damn about, what was going on in Afghanistan. That wasn't filled with mostly white Christians. In fact, the majority of the white Christian people that were there were U.S. soldiers. And according to General Miley, it really can't be white, straight Christians because that's not what he wants the military to be. So people only give a shit about Ukraine because they're white Christians. Okay, first of all, dumbass, a good percentage of Ukrainians are not Christian. They're Jews. All right, so that shoots a hole in that bullshit. Second of all, there are black people in Ukraine. Oh, that doesn't work. And she also went on in that deal, but MSN has it blocked up with all kinds of shit, so I can't get the video from it, about how the images that we're seeing are only depicting white people and white people that are suffering. And that's why people care. And people like this still have a venue to be able to spread their bullshit. Because that's what it is. Again, fake hate. By the way, if you would like a t-shirt or anything like that that says stop fake hate, because that is what we're trying to do in this country, or in this show, go to therichwilsonshow.com. Click the shop now button. You will find it. We've got everything from shirts to posters to yoga mats, iPhone cases, you name it. So anyway, it's like Dean said, I give a shit because they're people. I give a shit because they're people. The other reason why I'm interested in what the hell is going on is this is the largest ground war in Europe since World War II. We have a madman threatening to use nuclear bombs, which affects a lot more people than just the Ukrainians. We have the Chinese now going in and buying up all the grain that they can, which is, and do you know that Ukraine is a massive exporter of grain to the world? And now China's going in and buying it all, which is going to cause a grain shortage. Because in America, it's a bright idea, according to the Democrats, to help green energy by paying farmers not to farm. Oh, yeah. Did we forget about that? I bet that's because it's not important. Okay. We give a shit because they're people, and we're literally watching a guy kill civilians. Okay? He is literally giving the orders to kill civilians. He is literally arresting people that are protesting. I think the number's at like 20 some odd thousand people now in Russia have been arrested for protesting. Imagine what would have happened last summer, during the mostly peaceful riots of burning shit, stealing shit, and killing people. Okay? Imagine what would have happened if we had marched into the streets and just started arresting people wholesale for doing it. Imagine the outrage. But what? We only give a shit because what? They're white? They're not all white people. And yes, I watched some of the Russia protesters where they're arresting people, and there was black people in there. There was some Asian people in there. There was all kinds of people getting arrested. They're arresting kids all the way up to great-grandmothers. It's because we give a shit about people. But what you're going to do, Joy, is you're going to turn around and you're going to focus on the fact that, well, it's because nobody gets... Because if a war broke out right now in Africa and innocent civilians were going to be getting killed, if it was no longer a military versus a military, and it was literally one military was killing civilians, we would give a shit. Because that shit is wrong. Just wrong. You don't kill civilians. Okay? You go in, when you're a military trying to take over, you go after military targets and military people. You don't go blowing up civilian hospitals. You know, kind of like the Russians did. They blew up a hospital with children and pregnant women and women in the middle of being in labor. They blew that building up. But we only give a shit because they're white. That is the biggest load of This is the reason why we have problems in this country. It's not because these things generally exist. It's because morons with a platform like that are telling you you have to believe they exist. Here's a stat, right? You say that, oh, you know, it's white this, white that, white this, right? Okay, remember during segregation and Jim Crow and all that, and, you know, and all of that shit was horrible, right? But you know what stat they don't tell you about? They don't talk about? Did you know that the black middle class during that era was outperforming the white middle class 3-1? That they were successful and they were prospering, right? But then when we got into the 80s and we got into the late 70s and the 80s, and they started telling people they're victims of this and victims of that, you notice that curve went down. Now, I'm not saying bring all that shit back to promote success again. It's like I told somebody today, okay? This white privilege shit and this, you know, everybody's a racist against you and all this. The problem with that argument is this, okay? It's divisionism. It's victimhood enforcement. By pushing victimhood onto people and making them believe that they're victims of everything, what it does is it alleviates the responsibility an individual has to get themselves up from adversity and to rise above their situation and improve their surroundings. It takes that responsibility away from them and allows them to fail and blame it on everybody else. That's what it does. So when you turn around and make people believe that it's everybody else's fault and that's what they go with, then that's where it comes from. That's where you get it from. I know lots of people who are not white, that are succeeding. Well, until inflation and gas went through the fucking roof and now everybody's hurting. But they're succeeding. They took their surroundings and said, I am not going to be like this. And they raised themselves, they improved their surroundings and became successful because they had a drive to say, this is what we're going to do. But then somebody like Joy Reid comes around and tells you that they're not really black or Asian or Hispanic or whatever because they succeeded. I mean, hell, she said that about Clarence Thomas, for Christ's sakes. That's a guy that came from the bottom, worked his way all the way up to the Supreme Court. But evidently, successful people don't count. That's the sad reality of divisionism. Do you know that divisionism is really pushing for segregation again? Divisionism is being pushed by the same people that tried to keep segregation. Same dogs, new tricks. Okay? Because why? Because the more dependent you become on a system, the more they're needed, which means the more money they can do. The more money they can take in order to say, we're doing it to help you. We're doing it because you're a victim. We're doing this for you. Oh, and it sounds so great. It's like a warm blanket you can wrap around you and make you feel good. Oh, she called me a racist, Dean. Dean says, I bet if you argued with her, she'd call you racist. The sheer fact that I'm a straight white male already makes me a racist and public enemy number one in her book. But like I said, it's like a, by the way, for those of you watching the show, because I know you're out there, I have a chat room, both YouTube and Facebook and on Twitch. Be a part of the conversation. But it's like a warm blanket you can wrap around you, makes you feel good. Because you're not responsible for it. It's somebody else's fault. And because of that, you can feel nice, safe, and secure. But it's a blanket of bullshit. It's not real. At the end of the day, what do you have? All this help and all this we're doing, and we're doing it for you. Where is it getting you? Seriously. Look at the numbers. Poverty? I mean, really, you guys were all pissed off at the last dude, but hell, minority unemployment across the board was at its all-time low. More minorities were entering in the middle class than not quite ever before, but the numbers were improving. But what's happened now in a year, those numbers have reduced. The numbers are sliding the other direction. These are numbers. You can't argue with them. Numbers don't lie. The Department of Statistics, health and, the Department of what is it, urban housing or whatever, all these government agencies that's their job to track this are showing the numbers are sliding the other direction. And right now they're still going, because of the pandemic and how long are we going to have that fucking excuse? What, 8 years like we did for another 8 years, like Obama blamed Bush for everything for 8 damn years? Because it won't be their fault. It's always somebody else's fault. Have you not noticed that, people? Divisionism. It's somebody else's fault. And you had that for 8 years under one administration. It's a political ploy that you all buy into constantly. It's somebody else's fault. It's not ours. And then, of course, what do you do when there's Republicans in charge? And Republicans sit there and start blaming everybody else. And when the Democrats are in charge, they blame the Republicans. This is where it needs to stop. And it needs to stop at home. It needs to stop locally. Stop blaming other people and figure out a way to fix it. Here's the one thing I hate the most. It's your fault. Okay, how do we fix it? I don't know. It's their fault. Okay, so how do we fix it? Well, it's their fault. That's not an answer. Blaming somebody for a deficiency does not solve your problem. Identifying that there's a problem, that starts the process, but how do you fix the problem? You identify the problem, and then you come up with a solution. But they tell you don't have to have a solution. Why? Because it's their fault. And that's always the answer. It's their fault. And when you look at them, how do we fix it? Deer in the headlights. And then all of a sudden go, well, it's their fault. They need to fix it. Well, if they're the ones fucking it up, why are you going to have... It's like going to a mechanic with a broke engine, trying to get a mechanic that doesn't know what he's doing to fix your engine. It's still broke, and then taking it back to the same mechanic to have the same mechanic fuck it up even further. If it's these people's fault, that's the problem, then why do you say they have to be the answer to it? That's your problem. The people who are at fault, you expect to fix. Why? Because under this system, you're told that you're not responsible for this. You're told, don't worry about this. That it will be fixed. How? How? Seriously. You tell me. This is the thing. That's what puzzles me, and that's what I'm going to leave you with tonight. The only way to fix these problems is for us to fix them. I said us. I didn't say you. I didn't say me. I didn't say the other guy down the street. I didn't say Dean Lynn. I didn't say Ollie, who's a person who watches this show all the time. I didn't say that it was Kill Mill who watches the show all the time, or Super Dave. I didn't point one person out. I said us. I said us. We're all a part of this. And if we're going to get rid of all the shit you claim that exists, all that, then the only way we can fix this is by coming together to fix it together. We got to stop going, it's your fault because you're this, that, this, fill in the blank, whatever the hell it is. We have to stop that. But the media is jockeying for positions in how to tell you to be separate. And how to not work together. Because God help the world if we suddenly said, well, God help the ones trying to push this narrative. If we all decided, fuck it, we're going to get together and we're going to figure this out. We're going to work on a way to fix this. Hell, I tried to have a conversation with some people today on Facebook, and all I got is a bunch of shit thrown in my face. And it's like, this is the reason why we have this problem. I disagree with you, and I want to have a discussion about it. And all you want to do is yell white privilege and you're a racist and that all to me when I disagree with you. I had the same argument with this really moronic person in this former organization I was a part of, where this person sat there and said, you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. And I said, well, then tell me how I'm wrong and what can we do together to correct this problem. All I got back was, you're this, and this. But that doesn't tell me how we can work together to fix this. You said this organization has this problem, and you say that I'm one of the curators of this problem. Okay, cool. So how do you educate me to be different so I don't have this problem anymore, so then I can pass that along to other people so we stop that and we snip this in the butt? All I got in return was, you're this. That's not a fucking answer. And I've gotten to the point now when I try to have a discussion with somebody and they just immediately go, well, you're racist. I just want to give them the finger. But that doesn't help. So I just turn around and say, okay, well, have a nice day. I've given up on trying to discuss with those people. Because they are so deep in this wrapped up blanket of lies to make them feel better that you just can't go anywhere. This psychosis is real. Once again, the Florida bill, there's nothing that's in it that says you can't say gay. There's nothing in it that discriminates against LGBTQ people. There is nothing. I've read that bill 12 times. Easily 12 times. Thank God Florida at least writes a bill that's not 8,000 pages long. And then I went back and looked at the reference points about how it just backs up rules that already exist and laws that already exist. And it's true. They literally do back up shit that already exists. And it makes it clearer. I have a law degree. And it's like, oh, wow, this actually takes this jumbled mess and makes it make a little more sense. But then the bullshit artists come along and want people to be all full of hate and horrificness because they're already starting to think that Ron DeSantis, I apologize, there was actually somebody got offended by me saying DeSantis, and they are correct. That's not the correct pronunciation. They're already going after him in hardcore mode because they think he's going to be the nominee. By the way, folks, for all of those out there touting the whole thing about Donald Trump said he's running again in 2024, he has not stated that he's running again. All he said is, we did it in 2016. We've done it before that, and we could do it again. That means that literally, if you translate out the crazy shit that man says, it literally means the Republican Party has defeated the Democrats before. They've beaten them on this. They've beaten the bullshit artists and the naysayers in 2016, and they can beat him again in 2024. Okay? He has not come out, and I checked this today to verify. Everybody's like, oh, Trump's going to run in 2024. I checked with the department, with the federal electors. It's actually a different office. I'm just going to give you that name. The painkillers are making me draw a blank. Anyway, I checked. He is not registered as a candidate for 2024. And you know why? Because it isn't August 1st of the year prior to the election. So guess what? Nobody knows who's running. How many times did Donald Trump back in the past, of us old people that, we were alive in the 80s and the 90s, how many of you out there remember he'd get on TV, he'd be on with all kinds of different people and would talk about running and never did. In 2016, the 2016 election, when he first started talking about it, everybody was like, yeah, whatever. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he registered and was on the ballot, and people were like, oh shit, he's actually running this time. Okay? He wasn't talking about running, so stop with this. Oh, he's running. He's not. Okay? Well, he might. I don't know. But he hasn't said it yet. It's like the same idiots who are saying that Hillary Clinton's running. She's all talk, and you never know until the day they actually file their fucking paperwork. So stop with that. Stop with this. I want to be the first one to say it. You sound like Dan Rather with the whole, George Bush thing that ended up getting him fired. I want to be the first one to break this story. And you look like an ass when you're wrong. You look like an ass. Okay? Stop it. Just knock it off. And once again, for those of y'all that said I was crazy 3 months ago that oil was going to, we were going to look at barrels of oil at this price and gasoline was going to cost this much and said I was nuts. All right, I'm making a prediction. We're passing $1.50 a barrel before Memorial Day. Original speculation was July. I'm telling you right now, Memorial Day. Which sucks for me because I got to take a road trip. But it's cool. You know what? I get to have my son, and I don't give a damn what it costs. I want to see my son. That's what's important to me. But folks, that's what I got for you tonight. Just stop buying into this bullshit. Stop the fake hate. If you want to help stop the fake hate, get a T-shirt, get a bumper sticker. I don't know if I have a bumper sticker actually. But you can go to richwilsonshow.com. Yes, it's a shameless plug. But the problem is it costs money to run this operation. This isn't free. Okay? And if you go to that, you go there, you'll find some merchandise. I got Stop the Hate, the Fake Hate. Don't let others determine who you are. St. Javelin, the protector of Ukraine. I think I came up. Oh, yeah, and I identify as Apache attack helicopter. My pronouns are pew, 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 and brrr. I've got those shirts. I've got that merchandise in there. Check it out. Buy something. Get it for a friend. You know, you might see something a friend might like. You never know. It helps support and keep this channel going. I'm not trying to make $1 million here. I'm just trying to keep the show on. But anyway, folks, you guys have a good one. And by the way, if you see at the bottom, this show has a Discord channel. I might end up doing my chat, some of my chat conversations over in Discord because it's a lot easier to manage. I haven't made up my mind whether or not I'm doing it. I'm just kind of playing around with it. I've been moving my arms around so much, my damn Fit Watch thinks I'm doing exercises. That's what coffee and medication will do to you. But anyway, folks, you guys have yourselves a good night. For everybody here at the world famous Rich Wilson Show, I am Rich Wilson. Dave, thanks very much for everything, and especially for helping us when Streamlabs decided at 5 minutes to showtime, we want to run an update. Thank you guys very much for that. Just remember something, okay, folks? The tunnel may look really dark right now, but trust me, there is a light at the end of it. As long as we're all willing to traverse that tunnel together, we'll all come out on the other side, okay? Folks, for everybody here at the world famous Rich Wilson Show, I'm Rich Wilson. You're not. That's a good thing. Trust me, the amount of pain I'm in right now. You guys have yourselves a good night. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, which doesn't leave you much room for error. But, hey, sometimes that makes it fun. We'll see you later. Good night. Good night, Dean. Good night, good night, all you people who didn't go in the chat. You guys can. You're not gonna get in trouble by chatting in here. Just saying, it's there. It's a welcoming environment. Anyway, good night.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no